Hello everyone, my name is Art Russell. Welcome to my channel. Boy, are you in for a treat today. Why? Because you guessed it, Art's made another illustration, with the hope that it will help explain the differences between the dualistic paradigm of reality, which we've been conditioned to believe, and the truth of our oneness. These are sometimes referred to as the materialism paradigm of reality and consciousness only. But before we get into it, I'd like to offer my sincere apologies to every cartographer and artist around the world. I'm sure you'll know why in just a minute. All right, so here we go. Here's the illustration and the reason for the apology. So in this paradigm of reality, which is the dualistic view, we're conditioned to believe that we are a character, a guy or a girl, a subject in an apparently objective world. And this certainly seems very real to us because we've been conditioned to believe it. So in this case, this character stuck in the ocean would believe that it is a subject and that it is the source of its own consciousness, assumed to arise from the brain, from processes, neuronal processes within the brain. Now, this is far from being proven. In fact, it hasn't been, and it won't be. So this perspective of the person believes it is an individual subject, and in this case, it might be looking at the object of a deck of a ship, or a landmass, or apparent water. And this seems absolutely certain. Now, this perspective, though, of reality leads to a lot of suffering and confusion. It's actually a heavy weight that seems to bear greatly upon our apparent life. There is fear related with this perspective because from the perspective of the person, there's the belief that I, the little I, in this case given a name, Art Russell, believe that I began sometime prior to birth, or soon after birth, or at birth, and that I'm therefore going to have an end. So this can lead to a lot of anxiety about fear of death, fear of the end. This also leads to suffering because the perspective of that little self attempts to get life in balance, wants to live a good, happy life. But as we know, circumstances, when viewed from the dualistic perspective, especially, seem to be changing dramatically from day to day, or week to week, or year to year. Life may seem apparently very good while all the circumstances line up, the ducks are in a row, so to speak. But as soon as those ducks get out of line, as they always do, there is suffering and grief. And then there's this continuing effort to get those ducks back in a row. So there we go again. I'll give you a look at this, the dualistic perspective of so-called reality. The strong belief that you are the person. This is not questioned usually at all. Maybe later in life or with great tragedy or suffering. The perspective is the strong belief that you are the person in an objective world. Okay, so let's go on to the second view here and reveal more of my artwork. So the second perspective, I call it truth. And when enlightenment occurs through grace, this is definitely known. This is not a belief that's adopted. It's not like you read a whole bunch of books and you go, oh, I'm going to pretend, I'm going to assume that that belief is true. it's directly known. Here's consciousness only model of reality. Now in this, what I've drawn here are lines depicting consciousness. Now, of course, we don't see consciousness, but we realize fully that to have any kind of experience, consciousness must be present. How could you have an experience in the absence of consciousness? So in this paradigm, in this truth, this character, guy or gal, is witnessed as being in consciousness. The world is within consciousness. There's the oneness. Everything in this paradigm, we begin with consciousness only. This, therefore, has to be made out of consciousness, and it is known by pervading, omnipresent consciousness. In the case of what we take to be real here now, there would be 8 billion, approximately, of these characters, all being known by the only consciousness there is, masquerading as these characters. Okay, so granted, there's going to be some questions that arise with this. And the questions are related to the issue of matter, is one. You might be saying, Art, there's a whole lot of matter surrounding me right now. How do you explain that as being made out of consciousness? So let's deal with that first. Was there matter? Has there ever been matter in any of your apparent dreams, your nighttime dreams? What about a 747 plane? What about a skyscraper? What about a body? Or bodies? Were there events taking place? Okay. And in the morning, there was no evidence of those around the bed, on the floor. So we realize, but we rarely, if ever, think of this, that those apparent objects and people had to be made of consciousness. It made that dream world apparent. Now, there's also the issue about doership. And somebody would say, Art, I know I am doing this right now. I am the person, I am raising my hand, or I am picking up this piece of paper. I just ask you, isn't that the way it seems in nighttime dreams? Haven't you ever witnessed your body awake in the morning, arise, present, appear? And you were so relieved because maybe you thought you had committed a crime. You realize you felt like the doer. You 100% felt like the doer. And I'm saying that, doesn't that seem to correlate with this? When through grace enlightenment occurs, and there is the realization of oneness, of consciousness only, there is tremendous relief. Now, it can be a confusing time too, because we have to, as I'm sure you've heard in other videos, unlearn all of what we've learned. We've been conditioned to believe that we're the doer, been conditioned to believe that we began with the appearance of the baby, grows, matures into the adult, we hope. And we've all grieved at the apparent loss of what we assume to be the people that we loved. What if it was possible to know them on a much deeper level? This is actually illustrated in stories such as Aladdin's lamp. When there is disidentification, the genie consciousness arises out of the lamp. It disidentifies. It no longer identifies for whatever reason. As it relates to the human perspective, it might be tremendous suffering or tremendous shock, that type of thing. Now, before I sign off for this video today, I'd like to leave you with a couple of questions to contemplate if you'd like. Not if you don't, of course. The first one is, what's knowing your experience right now? And the second one, are you absolutely certain that it's just the little you? Or could it be infinitely grander? If you've enjoyed this video, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and click a like. More information is available through my free articles at thinktwice.me and also through my book entitled This Taste of Flesh and Bones, available from Amazon. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'd like you to know that I care very deeply for all of you. Bye for now. We'll talk again soon.